that stuff right there, just good. We're using Kingsford today, and a couple pieces of paper. Now what we're going to do today, we talked about last time the different techniques and different types of cooking. Offset being my favorite. So we got the fire over here. We're going to put our food over here in a different chamber. I'm throwing on a couple little appetizers that are really easy to make. If you don't want to make them, we sell them. Always got to get a shameless plug in. We're doing a sausage stuffed mushroom caps, what we call it. And it's basically we take a hot breakfast sausage. It's not real hot, but it's got a little extra spice in it. Take a spoon and scrape out the inside of the mushroom. We do the same thing with the portobellos. You notice we do a nice portobello here, a caprese. I don't say it right, but anyway, we all know what I'm talking about. We'll hollow them out also. We put a little mozzarella, some grape tomatoes, some olive oil, and some fresh sweet basil in there. And that's great. Especially when you have guests over that are vegetarians. Or a towel underneath your cutting board. It's there. Now, if you try with the dry towel, it works a little bit better than no towel, but a wet towel makes all the difference. So we got a nice surface to work with. Those are the basics of barbecuing, in my opinion. There's a lot of other things that we can do. This thing going good for pickle. I tell people this all the time. I related a lot to my wife. My wife's very some days.
That's big talking since last night.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. She's probably out here listening. You can cook. We cook briskets every day up here. I can cook briskets night after night, and I got a system for how I like to cook my briskets. And some small change can happen, whether it be in the outside temperature, which packer I buy that brisket from, my smoker. I had a solenoid on my smokers. Have a sensor that if they drop below a certain temperature, it'll kick on the fire and it'll bring it up to temperature. That way I'm not up here all night long. I load mine up with wood. I set the temperature. I set the rotisserie motor going, and it will stay a constant all night long for the most part. Now if the fire gets above where I've got it set, it's just going to go above it. There's no fire suppression on it. But at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning after my wood burns out, it will stay and maintain its temperature. I had a solenoid on mine that told it when to open a gas valve to ignite it. The solenoid was having a delayed reaction of two muscles. We got the flat, which is this portion down here, and you can kind of see, this was a good one I thought. You can see the grain running right through here and this one, and so you can kind of see. Here's another view. You can see that muscle right there. You see that nice piece of lean? That's the flat. And we're going to cut one that I cooked last night, and I'm going to show you the difference in the flat, and I call the point. Other people may call it something different, but I call it the point just because it's a point. I'm not real smart. That's just how I come up with that. The flat is a very lean part. There's not much marbling in it. It's just one solid muscle that's going to have a piece of fat running along the top. And sometimes you'll see them and they're completely covered in fat. This one was a good one. I thought is just a point of reference for us. Of course, they're always going to have fat on bottom. Picking a good brisket is, I'm not going to use any more references to my wife. I don't want to get in trouble. Picking a good brisket is hard to do, even for me, especially when they're in the cryo vac. You can kind of feel of it. The firmer it is, the harder it is, that means the thicker the fat is. If it's kind of soft, there's 1,000 YouTube videos out there by these professional barbecuers on how to pick a good brisket. They may know a lot more than I do. We cook probably 10 to 15 briskets. We'll pan it and cover it. My theory is that it's only going to take smoke for so many hours. So after I've had 12 hours, I've done burned through 2 or 3 big sticks of wood like we put in our fireplaces. it's pretty much got all the smoke it's going to take. We got a nice bark to it. It's got good color to it. So what I'll do then is I'll put it in my pan and wrap it in foil. I'll do the same thing with my pork butts. Pork butts are typically done after 12 hours. So we'll pull them off, put them in a pan, wrap them in foil, and put them in an ice chest. And that's how we hold them all day, to keep them warm without drying them out. So we're not adding any heat to them after that 12-hour mark. We're just kind of letting them steam in that ice chest, and then the steam, you know, kind of keeps it warm without drying it out. This is, if y'all can see, maybe y'all can see how much juice we got in there. Now part of that's going to be grease. One good way, let's see if I can just make it a mess. You can kind of see y'all a line right here. I can see it. This is grease up here on top, and then that's brisket juice down there on bottom. And so what we'll do in the kitchen a lot of times, we like to save that. We call that black gold. It's great for rehydrating stuff. I cook with it. You know, if I need my stroganoff's a little dry, we'll throw a little brisket juice in there. I cook it, all kinds of stuff. But what we'll do is we'll put it in cups and let it congeal. The grease will all get hard and come to the top. We'll scrape it off, throw it away, because we don't really have any use for it. It's your cardiologist. And we'll save the brisket juice. Okay? So, I really like to save that juice, and if I don't pan it, then I would lose all that in the smoker. Broke down like this, it's really easy to identify the grain. And you can tell this is one solid muscle here. I mean, you can easily see that grain. So all we're going to do is we're just going to come in right here and start slicing it. And I'll just slice it all the way down just like this. I leave all that fat on there. To me, it helps keep it juicy. It helps keep it tender. I do a long cook. If I was going to shorten my cook time up and pan earlier, I would think about pulling some of that fat off or cutting the brisket down in smaller pieces. But for us, doing an all-night 15-hour cook, this system just really kind of works good for us. We don't have a real heavy smoke ring on this, but we do have the smoke flavor. Once again, I go back to my customer base. I've done this for a long time. A heavy smoke can give you indigestion. It does me. So I try not to get too carried away with the smoke profile. I want to kiss the smoke just like I want to kiss the spice, but I want to enjoy the brisket. That like that, put it in half pans. I come back so it works for serving sizes. Put it right down the middle like that. Go right back in my juice. Some days you come in here and the brisket's falling apart. I see there's some nice smoke ring right there on that. So we got some nice smoke penetration even without taking the fat off. I'll keep a piece of this out so we can show the difference in the flat and the point. Let's throw that back in the pan. Okay. That was the flat. And another reason, a lot of restaurants will separate how they sell it, whether they sell the point or chopped or they sell the flat. A lot of places charge extra for the flat. A lot of places only cook flats. You can go in a store and buy just a brisket flat. And it'll look just like that muscle right there. It's usually cryovac individually. They're usually very trimmed. And you're usually going to pay $2 to $3 more per pound than you would for a whole brisket. I like the whole briskets. It gives me a better yield. It's a point. I'll get in here with my hands a lot of times and just make a mess out of my wife's trash can. Well, the dogs are going to love the patio tonight. Okay. I'll kind of use my knife a little bit, just guide me, but a lot of it. Howdy, ma'am. You joining us?
I'm curious to see what you're doing.
We're doing a cooking class about grilling and cooking, and we're talking about how to break down a brisket right now.
Is this where you get the burn ends that I hear people have?
Yeah, you can get burn-ins from a lot of different places. You can take these. Usually with the burn-in, what we're going to do is we're going to cut it up in little cubes prior to cooking it, and then we're going to not so much. It's a little more intertwined into it, and that's what I wanted to show y'all as we cut it. Now, I pretty much got most of the fat that I can get off of it off, and you see our pile is probably close to 60-40. I mean, it's real close, and then there's quite a bit of marbling still, fat still in this piece of meat. So we're going to take that off. We're going to identify our grain like we did a while ago, and it's obvious that our grain's running like this. I say that it is to me all the time. I've done this for a long time. My kitchen ladies are like, I don't see no grain. But you know, when you're cutting a brisket, if your pieces don't come out looking like that, then we know we've got the wrong grain. And you need to stop, dig a little further, identify your grain, and by finding your grain and cutting across it, that's how we get to break off in little pieces like that. Okay, so our grain's running like this. This one's going to fall apart. I'm going to go ahead and cut it in half. And now we're going to come back here and cut it just like I did that last one. This is my favorite part of the brisket because it's got a little more marbling in it. It's got a looser grain, and it's got just a little bit more fat. This is the part that I like to show folks. Let's see. We're going to lay a couple pieces of the flat. Oh, wait a minute, the point, and then we're going to lay a couple pieces of the flat. And you see how different they look, or is it just me?
No.
You see, that's a tighter grain. That's a lot larger grain, and this has got a lot of fat just running in between the grain of the meat. From the rack to the pan, covered in foil in the ice chest, and then they just rested until we need them. So I pulled that fat cap off. I pulled a little bit of lean off. And this is what makes Grandma mad right here, or my wife mad. We're very anal about getting all this crap out. And these are just glands and stuff. Collective tissue. A lot of times in between two muscles in a pig or cow, either one, there will be like a piece of, I call it collective tissue. It's just trash, really. We're very particular about cleaning this up. You don't want to spend $50 buying good meat, spend all day long cooking it, and then you get ready to serve it, and you get lazy and you leave something like that in there. So I just kind of separate it out a little bit. Now we miss a piece every now and then, but I had the ladies spend their time with each one of these pork butts and just kind of work through it. As you see, it's just kind of falling apart. That's what we want. And with the different layers, we just get a little bit more of that stuff. There's nothing wrong with that. A lot of restaurants, a lot of people leave it in there. We just do not do that here at Clampit. We pull it well together for it. You can use water, you can use beer, you can use apple crown, whatever you want to use to hydrate it. You know, it's each individual person themselves. I like just apple juice. It's very simple. It doesn't scorch real bad. Everybody come through here and try this if they want to. That's how the rib I cook here, I guess everybody's eaten here before. A spare rib and a, this is a St. Louis rib. This started off as a spare rib. There's typically, for the most part, bone in. There's a starts here, it angles up, comes back down. That's the spare rib. That's usually the cheapest rib you're gonna find at the store. It's the most universal rib, all the way down. You'll notice this rib bone and this rib bone is pretty well about the same. It enables you, when you get home, to take a knife and cut your ribs straight down like that, all the way down through your entire slab. You'll notice the rib is only about that long on this end. It's got a little hook bone rib. And so the whole thing is only that big, and on this end, it's this big. Oh, thanks, brother.
Is a loin back less fatty than a spare rib or?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Not
I
necessarily.
always thought that that's why I wanted them.
They're just a little cleaner. They're a little bellies. Because when we pull a belly off of a pig, they rip it down the middle, and they'll pull the front shoulder off. They'll pull the ham